After Governor Babatunde Raji Fashola declared that no tenant should pay for more than a year to rent an apartment, it was believed that it would ease the pain of housing in Lagos, but rather led to an outrageous increase in rent rates. Challenges of housing in terms of quality and quantity appear to be the same all over the world. The needy have less access to housing, while the less needy have greater chances of accessing housing. In Nigeria, housing is generally inadequate in the rural areas. In urban areas, quantity is a major problem, with quality taking minimal concerns. The shortage of housing is one of the factors responsible for the poor environmental quality across Nigeria. In 1991, the National Housing Policy was promulgated in order to propose possible solutions to the housing problems in Nigeria. 20 years on, millions of Nigerians are still homeless, while many others are living in indecent houses or overpopulated specific areas or houses. Today on Public Announcement, we would examine the nature and status of the housing problem in Nigeria, the high cost of renting a living space in Nigeria, and more. Welcome to Public Announcement. While efforts are on to get the housing situation on full throttle, there is no gainsaying the fact that some developments put in place has not made it any easier in securing a house. No matter how one looks at it, the unfortunate and unforeseen rate of this alarming situation has left a totally destructive and overwhelming effect on Nigerians. Housing finance, cooperatives, use of local building materials, development of infrastructure, policy implementation, and review of the housing policy are some of the possible solutions to the housing problem in Nigeria. Experts have called for the declaration of a national emergency in the housing sector, emphasizing that a robust national housing program would address the prevailing problems of poverty and unemployment. They suggest that a mass housing sector in Nigeria is grossly underrated, but it constitutes in itself a massive opportunity for economic and financial emancipation of millions of Nigerians, bearing in mind the multiplier factor and the fact that a decent house is in itself a formidable financial instrument. It is a complete disgrace that in a developing economy like ours, affordable mass housing is relegated to the background by virtually all tiers of government. Let's see what Nigerians think of the housing situation in the country, with various reactions to accessibility and affordability of quality housing structures, policies and support strategies by the government or private sector.
It's very difficult to actually get an apartment. I've actually been looking for an apartment over 2 months, 3 months now, and I've not been able to get any. The agents are crazy. Then the landlords go 2 years. They don't want to take anything less than 2 years. And I have money for a year rent. And nobody wants to take a year rent from me. Sorry, that's where the government, and it ends and starts with the government. It doesn't work here. For the house owners, they tell you the government didn't build the houses for them. So for the government, I think they should just help the populace by improving housing solution in Nigeria. Probably build more houses, like subsidized rates for people to be able to pay for rent. Not necessarily have to do with individuals you go renting houses from, because that's pretty difficult, I can tell you that.
It was not easy. Mostly this place I'm living in Ogundana, it was not easy at all. The house rent is very, very expensive. Well, and kind of landlords keep on increasing their house rent. It wasn't easy at all in Nigeria to get, and mostly in Lagos particularly. When you refer Lagos and Port Harcourt, it was very, very difficult to get house. It wasn't easy at all.
How do you think this affects an individual?
Most of individuals that cannot afford the money, I really sympathize them because of that. We need to at least curtail our house rent issue. At least we need to at least let the landlord, let them sympathize people. All fingers are not equal. Let them just sympathize people that are not other rich like that.
Housing living in Nigeria. You can't expect me to actually be receiving 100,000 and expect me to be living in having a housing of getting a room of apartment of 300,000. It's kind of crazy. I'm not thinking wisely. So I think it's just due to the economic situation is very, very, very high. Let me not say majority of Africans we complain about housing.
Where do you stay, on the mainland or the island?
I stay in the mainland.
Actually not too expensive?
No, I stay in the mainland because it's at comfort for me right now to stay in the mainland because I work in the mainland. So I think
it's not because the houses on the island are expensive.
Sure, the houses in the island are expensive, but it depends on your comfort, where you feel we should be part-time. So at the part-time time, maybe because I'm still situated in this area, so let me be here. So when it's time maybe to go back to the island, I'll be there.
How can the problem of housing in Nigeria be a thing of the past?
I think it actually comes about the psyche of human being, thinking about trying to help each one another and not be selfish and self-centered, thinking about the range of people and how to actually accommodate people in their own form of living.
Housing in Nigeria has to do with your pocket size, your income. What do you get? If you're not employed, if you're underemployed, would definitely define the kind of housing you will be able to afford. If you're going to be staying in the squatter section, the slum sector, living in a well-equipped environment, all still boils down to the system of Nigeria. And because the system has not given Nigerian a very, very comfortable and convenient means to get what they want. So all I would say about housing system in Nigeria is the economy. Most people are not employed. The ones that are employed are underemployed. I'm sure when you say underemployed, you're not getting what you're supposed to be getting. So the system as a whole in Nigeria has not really given room for people to get what they want, in that the employment sector is not encouraging. So people don't have what they want, how much more get what they want? So if you want to get an accommodation, you have to go according to your size pocket. So if you cannot get an accommodation that suits you, the size of your pocket, you just have to manage, which will put you into squatting or the slum area. There used to be that system over time before now, where they have the low-cost houses. If the government can still implement that law, or still look for a way whereby they can build houses for the masses that cannot afford to live in a comfortable houses, there should be provision for low-cost houses. That is where an average Nigerian can afford to stay.
Or even a self-contained, if you don't have like 200,000 plus, you can't rent it. Okay, now I'm working, I'm earning like 20,000 as a salary, maybe per month. How will I get the money before I feed myself, clothe myself? How will I get the money to go and rent like 200,000 naira?
What do you think the government should do the issue of housing?
They can even build a house that maybe that will not be even called like the landlord, because some landlord, they depend all their problem upon their house. If you have maybe they have 3-story now, they will depend on their problem. They will not sympathize. So I think maybe government should help the youth.
Well, the housing situation in Nigeria, to me, I think it's an issue, that needs to be addressed. Accommodation in Lagos, for especially, is very, very expensive, and it's not easy for a lot of people to get accommodation. I don't know what the government can do about it, or the governor, they can really create, facilities, infrastructures, things that can help, to develop the society, so that, value of things can come down and people can find it easier to be able to afford all these things. So the price of accommodation, everything, housing can really come down. If you go to America, Europe, those things are not really big deal. They are not that expensive, but in Nigeria here, it's really a big factor, that we need to overcome.
You stay on the mainland or island?
Yeah, I stay on the mainland. I stay on Bamishile Street. This is my street.
You don't think the house in Nigeria are that expensive, but we said Lagos State. I'll agree with you, some other big city in Nigeria. But because where I served in Oyo State, Bora to be precise, I got a room, very big room, less than 1,000 naira, with a toilet. Even in Lorin, I actually grew up, and some other area like that I've been to, house is not that expensive apart. And maybe if you said, okay, camp or university side that everybody believe, okay, at least students want to stay very close to that area, that's where you can get a very expensive album. To talk of maybe maybe very cheap house. It's everywhere apart from Lagos and some big city. My experience, I don't really have much experience like that apart from one, and it's not really too ethic though, but it's expensive and it has to be extreme Lagos State, not even the big side, not even the usual area in Lagos State. It's the extreme, as in close to Ogun State side of Lagos, and it's still expensive there because before you can get even a room self-contained or a room and parlor self-contained in that area, you have to have close to 150,000. Apart from the agreement, commission and damages. But if you are to add all those things together, you have 200 or 200 plus before you can get a house for a year. And some of them don't even want to collect for a year. They want 2 years and more. So, and those are the things, and I don't really think, and it's not really helping us because I think there was a particular time Lagos State even implement a policy about you should have at least collect a year. But everybody are even skeptical about maybe if I don't pay this 1 year, another person will want to pay that. If I don't pay these 2 years, another person is coming, is just waiting behind for you to just leave the landlord or the caretaker's office and you will just come in and pay 2 years. So those are just the things, because even the house are not much, and even to get a good house in Lagos State is another big issue. The population in Lagos State is a major issue because, and the land density it's not really, can't really contain the population, and before you can get, even people are leaving Lagos State to Ogun State now, and they are even extending those Ogun State, calling them Lagos State.
Honestly, I don't think any price that is being placed on anything in Nigeria is supposed to be outrageous. If the environment is good enough and people are well paid, they can be able to afford such any amount that is being placed on houses. But to get a house to rent is quite expensive because there is no enough houses in Lagos to cater for the amount of population that are in Lagos. As you know, Lagos is like one of the most populated cities in Africa. So and most of the houses that are available, if you go around, you see so many uncompleted buildings just lying there for so many years. Those spaces, if they were converted to houses, and given out to people to rent, it will have solved some of the immediate needs of looking for a house, and probably the prices will have, if it can be slashed, will make housing available for people to be able to rent. But right now, I think the houses in Lagos the price that is put on houses to rent are quite ridiculous. And if something can be done about it by the government, it will really be appreciated. There are so many solutions. Everything does not really lie on the leaders alone, but from the kind of steps that the leader is taking will also motivate the followers to be able to add to what the leader is doing. So one of the steps are building as much estates as possible and giving it out at affordable prices, because most of the houses that have been built by the government, if you hear about the prices that they are being put on them, people say it's ridiculous, it's a lot of money. I'm not saying the money is expensive or is cheap, because if you consider the kind of materials that are used to make this building and you calculate how much you spend on building, you end up spending so much. So if you want to put a rent on it based on how much you've spent, the rent will be ridiculous for the people who cannot really afford it because of their income is quite low. So if they can make the income a little bit higher and build houses in mass, in areas that have a lot of spaces, so that people can divert their attention to the congested places to other places, so that there will be house for everybody.
To ensure accountability and commitment on the part of the government, the right to housing should be included as a human right under Nigeria's new constitutional framework. A change in Nigeria's housing policy has become necessary because the current constitution has made active participation of the private sector difficult. A World Bank report stated that for the issue of housing to be properly addressed in the country, a minimum of 1 million housing units should be built annually. However, not up to 1/10 of this figure is met annually, which simply leaves a deteriorating scenario in the country. House is the second basic need of man after food, and as such, one expects that any good government should make housing delivery a priority. It's on this note we end this edition of Public Announcement. Join us next week for another enlightening and insightful edition of the program. Until then, it's goodbye.